Hi, my name is Gina Canzona, and I am a Los Angeles realtor. This is Ryan, my lender.
Hey guys, I'm Ryan.Hoffman with Summit Funding.
And today we're going to go over some commonly asked questions from first-time buyers.
Definitely. Cool. Gina, you kind of prepped this up a little bit, and you basically said that we want to tie a first-time home buyer is, by definition, someone who's relatively fresh out of college. They're getting their first real grown-up job, let's say, and they are looking for low down payment options, and they don't think that they can ever qualify to buy something. But in reality, they can, and I want to kind of walk through those steps of how they can do that.
Exactly, perfect.
All right. So here's some of the variables that we set up here. We've actually here. Let me share my screen with you, and you'll get kind of an idea of what we're looking at here. Share. All right. This seems like a lot of craziness, but basically this is John Buyer. For this example, this is not a rate quote. I have to start with that. For compliance purposes, this is not real numbers. This is just an example of how we calculate everything. Good? Good. All right. Don't sue me. All right. So as we scroll down here, John Buyer is looking for his first house. Now, when he buys, he makes about, say about $75,000 a year for his first job. So that would be about $6,250 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go over here. I'm going to put that income right here. And he's going to be buying his first house with his fiance that he met in college. Is that a fair one?
Perfect.
All right, so the two of them are going to be buying their first house together. Now, a starter home, if you agree, would be about $700,000 or so in LA, depending on the neighborhood you're in, right?
Yeah, you can find some homes in that range. And
so I put 123 any street in Hollywood, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And I put the purchase price right here at $700,000. Now, there are a lot of different loan programs that are out there. VA is 100% financing, so if you're a veteran, you can get that for zero out of pocket. There's also programs that have, for example, down payment assistance. You can do multiple loans stacked on top of each other that will basically mean your total out of pocket's like 0.5%. Now, each of these programs have special rules and guidelines that apply to it. In this case, especially in the LA market, there is just the prices are so high and the income restrictions on a lot of these different products are there, so it doesn't always make sense. So in this case, we're just going to focus on FHA because it's across the board the easiest one to get into. So let's say 700,000, 3.5% is the lowest down payment if you are not using a down payment assistance program or VA. So that would be 24,500.
Mm-hmm.
That would mean the loan amount would only be $675,500. Now, in this example, I put 4.25%. There are ways you can get it down lower. There's ways you can make it higher and reduce your upfront costs.
Mm-hmm.
This is just an example of getting you to have the math that we're following here.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about monthly payment, if you take that loan amount and that interest rate, you get $33.81 per month on the principal and interest. Then you got to take care of your homeowner's insurance. Homeowner's insurance is basically the insurance that is there in case the house burns down. They need to be able to rebuild it. That's the insurance they want to have on it. Then you got real estate taxes. In this example, I put 1.25%. Now, most houses in California, 1.25% is pretty standard. You might find some older communities that are like 1.1, somewhere around there. And if you look at houses that are in brand new communities, those houses actually have a higher tax rate. Think more like 2 to 2.25%. The reason they're that expensive is because they put things like the cost of streets, sewers, they'll build all that cost into the being paid, not just by the purchase price of the house, but they'll bill it into the tax rate. There's pros and cons to that, but that's something that a good agent like Gina would be able to watch out for and make sure that you're not surprised at the end. They should be checking all that for you. Then there's mortgage insurance. Figure whenever you're putting less than 20% down, you're going to have some form of mortgage insurance. Now, sometimes you hear people talk about having programs that do not require mortgage insurance. And really, however you slice it, if you are putting a low down payment, there is a higher risk premium associated with that low down payment option. So whether you pay a higher interest rate, or you pay higher closing costs by paying the insurance premium in one chunk at the very beginning, you're going to pay for that risk premium in some way. So whether you see it or not, it's there. So this is FHA, so it's always the same 0.85%, except for some rare situations where it can actually be higher, or a little bit like a 0.5% lower, super, super small amount. Okay, so then that's mortgage insurance right there. And then that gives you a total payment of about $47.66. That seems like a lot if you're not used to it, but Gina, how's the Airbnb market or the rental market in LA?
Well, it's pretty expensive to rent, so honestly, if you can't afford it, it's a much better idea to be putting your monthly payments towards some equity, something that you'll own, rather than in someone else's mortgage.
hmm
Yeah.
So if we're looking in the area of, let's say, Eagle Rock, Highland Park,
Yeah.
what do you think that it costs for renting a place? Let's just say renting a room.
hmm Even just a one bedroom is going to go at least the minimum is $1,600 a month for a bedroom.
hmm
Yeah.
So figure if you're buying your first place and that payment is, close to $5,000. If
hmm
you've got it structured in a way where you've got 1 or 2 bedrooms to rent out, if you
hmm
rent out those bedrooms, not only are you building equity in your own home, but you have renters who are actually helping make that payment for you and are
hmm
helping you build equity in that house as well.
Exactly.
Mhm. So, all these situations are, you got to basically look at the big picture of it to understand, like, yeah, it's a big payment, but when you factor for all these other things that you get access to, saving money on taxes, building equity, um, being able to rent out portion of the property as well, all these different things add up together to really, really save you a whole bunch of money,
hmm
and your net coming ahead a lot of money.
Yeah. hmm
Um, Now you probably ask next about cash out of pocket. Now, this is the easiest way to kind of go about it. Figure for with all cost all in, with down payment and everything, you're probably looking about $32,000. Now, here's the good news though, is that you don't have to come up with any of that money on your own. Now, I think we said with the down payment of 700 times 0.035, so only $24,500 needs to come. You need to come in with at least that much, but that can actually come from a gift from your parents even. You don't even have to come up with that all on your own. Gift from a family member, something like that. So figure out a way to come up with that $24,500. And this other amount is things like your closing costs, escrow, title fees, lender fees, all these different things that add up in there. And you can even get the seller to pay those if you negotiate it right. Now, Gina, you may or may not feel like that's the right negotiation move to make, depending on the market and the individual
Yeah.
house that they're looking at. But that is an option that I make available. Now,
Right.
Gina and Chris and everybody on the team is freaking phenomenal. So this is something where I would go back and forth with you guys
Yeah.
to know where that sweet spot is and just give the options. You guys have all the ammunition to make the offer that gets the house. So
Exactly.
the way I put it is, what good is a low interest rate if you never get the offer on the house accepted?
Exactly. Especially at a first time buyers price range in the below $1 million, it can become really, really competitive here in LA to get a house. I just heard of someone who had 82 offers on a home that was around $700,000, and it went way over asking. So it is really competitive now.
hmm
Mhm.
Especially now when you're looking also at down payment programs or programs that are low down payment.
Mhm.
You may be competing with people that are all cash. You may be competing with people that are putting 50% down and still financing. What we do as Gina and I, Gina is going to make sure that offer is written in a way that is the most appealing, including a bunch of stuff that actually will speak directly to the seller, not just on the financial side, but also on the emotional side. Maybe it's like a picture, a handwritten note, and all that stuff. But then on my side, I make sure that the pre-approval package that I send as well has a lot of details in there, shows very, very clean and professional structure. So that
Mhm.
way they know that we really do a professional job. Sometimes we may also structure it in a way where, let's say you have enough money in retirement accounts and stuff like that. Where if you pulled from it, you could put 20% down.
Yeah.
You could, let's say, structure your pre-approval letter with 20% down. But if you end up getting an escrow and you only put down 3.5%, you may be able to close that way, no problem. So we put the approval letter in the way that shows you are qualified to do anything you want to do, and then you can close with a loan that fits with what you really want.
Yeah.
The main thing is people can't find all this stuff out on Zillow. You know, as much as I talk about, as much as I say how important the lender is, really, I would never buy a house without having a realtor myself. So it's important for you guys to be working with a great team. So me as a lender, and Gina and Chris and Inji and on the team are all fantastic, and they do a great job. A lot of experience in that office, a lot of teamwork, and be able to get offers accepted and know all the little pockets of houses that are available, not just what you're looking for. When I bought my my first house, I said I wanted to be here, and I thought I wanted to be close to this city. I thought I was gonna need to go basically 30 minutes this direction in order to find anything that I could afford. And really, they found one that was 2 minutes in a direction in a neighborhood I had no idea. So it comes down to having a team that knows all the pockets around that are really, really good at doing that. So, you know, anybody that was working with you is in really good hands. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Another question that I get a lot is, what does it take to qualify for a monthly payment like you showed us, around $5,000 a month?
Gotcha. So the easy math is that you need to have about, what's the easiest way to put it? Your income needs to be at least double the mortgage payment.
Okay.
So if you're only making 70,000, 75,000 a year, then that's not enough to qualify for that on your own. But if you and your fiance are both making decent money, that's more than enough to qualify. Now you factor, there's a lot of other things we have to factor for. If you have a lot of debt, a lot of expenses, you know, a boatload of student loans and stuff like that, we'll calculate and figure out where that sweet spot is, and make sure you can still qualify for it. But generally, that's the rules. You want to make a little over double what the mortgage payment is.
So for that, it would be at least somewhere around 120.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, if there's two of you on the loan, then your combined income of 120 or.
And then another question I do get too is, for example, a duplex might be a good option to go to for a first-time home buyer because they can help pay for their mortgage with the income off of the other unit. How much of the income of the second unit is going to get put towards mortgage payments in calculating if someone qualifies?
Gotcha. So yes, that's true, and they can use the income from the other unit. Without going into too much detail, because I feel like you can spend all this time getting all flustered thinking about all the little nitty gritty details. You can use about 75% of whatever the fair market rent is for that other unit. So if you buy a duplex, they expect that you're living in the larger unit. They always have to count that you're living in the larger unit, and whatever the rental is based on the appraisal doing a renter survey, they'll tell you what the market rent is for that unit. Multiply that by 0.75, and then that's the income. Now, times when that's really important is when you need extra income to qualify for that payment. So that would be a good reason to do that. You can't use that same philosophy when it comes to a single family house. So if you got a house, like a single family house with 4 bedrooms, you may be able to rent out 2 or 3 of the other rooms, but we can't count that rent in that example. So it might make sense to go with a duplex instead of a single family in that situation.
Cool, interesting.
And that's all part of the process of getting you pre-approved. When we sit down with clients, is we look through all these numbers, and then based on what their plans are, we know they're going to rent out a room to offset the payment. Then we'll look at duplexes as well, maybe 3 or 4 plexes, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And then what would happen if one of the units, the one that is that you're not going to be living in, is already leased out, but it's not at market rent? Do you guys count for market rent or the lease amount?
It would be the least amount on that point, because the appraiser is going to go in there and show what the is going to take pictures and everything. They're going to see that it's occupied, and then they're going to document whatever the lease payment is on it. They'll mark down what the market rent is, but they're going to show this is what it's rented out for now.
Yeah, very interesting.
Is that all? Got any other questions there, Gina?
I think that's all. Thank you, Ryan, for your time and expertise, as always.
My pleasure. My contact info and everything, I'm sure you'll post it down there in the bottom.
In
And
the
then
Mhm.
and I'm feel free. I'm whatever questions you got. If anybody's interested in getting pre-approved, or they think they're not going to be ready for another 6 months to a year, I'm still very open to doing strategic planning for long term in those situations.
Great. Yeah. So don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel and to Ryan's channel, which is going to be linked below. And ask us any questions you may have in the comments below. We're happy to answer them.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.